Know thyself, in the words of the ancient Greeks. But how can we come to know ourselves, the world and the faces of others? This is precisely the aim of neurobiologist Alumit Ishai.
Faces are the basis for our social interactions. And if you want, our face is our business card.
Reception at the University of Zurich's Center for Neuroscience. We have our sense of sight. We can orient ourselves immediately, choose, control movements, recognize unique objects. We even recognize passing acquaintances, establish contact. Indeed, we even hear music with our eyes.
A piano. A piano is an object. You know how it looks like visually. You know how it feels when you touch it, when you play the piano. And you also know the very particular sound that is associated with playing the piano. So you have different modalities. You have the visual, you have the tactile, and you have the auditory information about this particular object. And you can also read the word piano and already retrieve lots of information about this object from memory. And these are what we call the stored representation of an object in the cortex.
Perceiving the world is like a puzzle. The fundamental building blocks are known, but how do the different areas of the brain work together? Neurobiologists and cognitive psychologists, computer scientists, and yes, even philosophers gather knowledge in their efforts to understand the human mind, the greatest mystery of the universe.
The difference is that when you have a jigsaw puzzle, you know what the final picture is supposed to look like. And this helps you to put all the pieces together. And when it comes to the brain, we still don't have a clue about the final picture, in a sense that we don't have the bigger picture. It's still a mystery. It takes the brain about 170 milliseconds to recognize a face. In less than a quarter of a second, you already created an impression about the face.
The Institute for Biomedical Engineering at the University and Zurich's Federal Institute of Technology. Zurich is the worldwide leader in magnetic resonance imaging, MRI.
Today we are testing facial attractiveness. You're going to be presented with faces. For each face, you have to make a decision whether the face is unattractive, neutral, attractive, very attractive.
Using a small mirror, Georg, our test subject, views images of faces in the MRI. An artificial test situation in which the subject is asked to evaluate faces.
Can you see my hand down here?
Yes.
And up here?
Yes.
On the sides?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we're ready.
Brain research with Angelina Jolie. Alumit Ishai and one of her students project the faces of famous actors in rapid succession.
So I guess this will be better.
First of all, select
The MRI measures Georg's brain activity with fine spatial resolution. In this way, the researchers can determine which areas of the brain are stimulated by an attractive face.
Thank you, Georg. We finished the experiment. And you want to see your brain?
Certainly.
You really have one. See these beautiful images? This is a sagittal slice. And you can see here the hippocampus. You see the insula. Limbic system, it's important for emotion.
An inside look at the human brain. Will researchers be able to read emotions and thoughts using magnetic resonance images? At present, the results are not spectacular. Mind reading, that is a matter for the distant future. Nevertheless, this Israeli neuroscientist has established herself at the very top in neuroscience with her research and has developed fundamental theories in the perception of faces.
In my work, me and others, of course, have shown that faces elicit activation in a distributed cortical network. And the network includes regions in the visual system, which is here behind, all the way to the prefrontal cortex and to the orbitofrontal cortex, which is here between the eyes. We have evidence showing that babies at the age of few minutes can track faces longer than any other complex stimulus.
The infant brain identifies the mother within a complex visual environment. Amazing when we take into account that an infant sees everything out of focus. Perception of faces as the key to society.
And finally, we have evidence that at the age of several days, babies can imitate very complex facial features and facial expressions, suggesting again that we are born with some built-in machinery to process faces.
No consciousness without a brain. Without a brain, no awareness of this world. The world around us only exists through the brain.
What we see is some reconstructions of the world based on all the innate mechanisms that we have and based on experience. The brain is very plastic, namely it changes with experience, and we can learn to see many details.
The human brain functions like a circuit of analogical and digital impulses. At the Institute of Neuroinformatics, Professor Kevin Martin, a research colleague of Alumit Ishai, is investigating the smallest building blocks of the brain. The neuron. The human brain is built of billions of these nerve cells. Every nerve cell is connected to 1,000 to 2,000 other nerve cells.
This is the neuron in yellow, sitting in a cloud of synapses, which are these white blobs here. So each neuron in the brain sits in a galaxy of synapses. So Alumit Ishai is looking at the whole human brain. I'm looking at small particles of the human brain. So I'm like a particle physicist, and Alumit Ishai is like a cosmologist looking at the entire universe of the human brain.
Insight into dead matter. This was the view of the human brain 15 years ago. Microscopic images of nerve cells and brain tissue. These images were only possible post-mortem, meaning after death. The University of Zurich's Anatomy Department Museum documents the history of brain research. A split human skull, preserved in formaldehyde. In the past, brain researchers examined the brain tissue of abnormal individuals. Magnetic resonance imaging has made the living brain of the healthy individual the focus of researchers, and with that, perception psychology.
We are experts in terms of reading the faces of others because you catch the real thing and your brain is responding.
Fondation Baylor near Basel. Alumit Ishai visits the Museum of Modern Art with a friend. She has more than a personal interest in the exhibits. Alumit Ishai didn't just study biology. She also completed a degree in philosophy in Jerusalem. She's fascinated by the philosophy of the ancient Greeks, and she draws comparisons between the modern, highly technical brain research of today and the old philosophical questions concerning human existence.
The ancient Greeks asked very deep questions about the world, what is matter, what does exist, about consciousness, how does the mind work, etc., etc. And I think in modern day brain imaging research, we also try to do the same, namely to answer how does the brain represent the world around us.
Images with indeterminate visual input evoke curiosity. Abstract art challenges, even overwhelms the human capacity to understand images. And this is precisely the reason that Alumit Ishai employs abstract art in her research.
Yeah, we're going to start the experiment soon, and this time you will be presented with art paintings. You just have to look at them and decide if you see any familiar content. Okay? Can you hear me?
Impressionists, cubists, testing subjects' brains using classic modernist images.
Even when real objects do not exist in the painting, the brain is still trying to make something meaningful out of this painting. And we believe that the brain is always generating hypotheses about what is it that we are looking at, and that subjects use memory and associations in order to figure out what is it that they are looking at.
Brain research is a paradoxical science. Man solves the puzzle of his own brain using his brain.
If I walk in the street and I see someone, I cannot read their mind because I need a machine to record activation from their brain.
In order to understand brain activity, researchers need knowledge of the brain. And so the puzzle in the mind solves the puzzle in our head.
Hopefully in my lifetime we can make significant progress in putting together many pieces of the puzzle, but I think it will take a couple of 100 years before we can really say that we understand brain.